right, y'all. Happy Monday. Happy to be here with you guys today. It is actually our 30th episode, so that's absolutely crazy. Thank you to everybody who has tagged along this far. I have a fun episode in store for us today. And by fun, I mean hopefully you'll enjoy it because it was torture for me to put together. So it looks like the party who has been screaming about saving democracy for the last 6 or 7 years has chosen a new candidate without any input from their voter base whatsoever. So that's, awesome for them. Love that. But that new candidate is our current Vice President, Kamala Harris. So let's talk about her. There's always a ton of stories going on surrounding this woman. What's true, what isn't. Let's get to the bottom of it. Should be a good time, should be fun. Before we get into any of that, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up. I put a ton of work into these videos for you guys, so I would really appreciate the support. If you are watching on Spotify, make sure you leave a review and a rating over there. All of my other social medias are linked down below, as always. And with all of that, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. So I don't know about you guys. I keep hearing that Harris is overqualified for the presidency. And I'm just not super convinced. I'm not overly convinced of that fact. We are talking about a woman who got chosen to be vice president because Joe Biden promised to have a black woman. And he also promised to have a black woman Supreme Court nominee. And we all remember how well that went.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
And it's funny, right? Because everyone has been screaming, how dare you call her a DEI hire? She's so qualified in all of this, when Joe Biden himself said, quote, "To me, the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion," let's take a pause really quick. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Okay, stick with me here, are literally, and this is not kidding, man, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in a history that taps into the full talents of our country. And that starts at the top with the vice president. So I don't know, you guys. That kind of sounds to me like she was a DEI hire, but do I know? But all of that aside, she could be a DEI hire and be completely qualified. I would not be sitting here if he had picked somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, for example. In fact, I might even vote for somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, but he did not. He went with Kamala Harris. So let's find out if she is qualified. Let's find out. What I want to do today is look past the irritating cackle. I want to look past her redundancies. I want to look past the fact that she somehow has the same mental capabilities as an 80-year-old man. I want to get past all of that. Let's go to the beginning. Let's see how she got her start in politics. Where did she come from? Who is Kamala Harris? And why is she so damn unlikable? Okay, so to take it back, Harris attended Howard University, which is a historically black university. We have to put it out there because this is a big point for her to make. And then she proceeded on to go to the University of California College of Law. During this time, she ran for student government. She participated in some activism. And this is where we first start to see the sprinklings of her non-existent moral grounding. A former sorority sister to Harris said, "We took a more holistic look rather than demonizing people at a time when all of us kids were right there in some very impoverished surroundings." And this was in regards to the Reagan administration's push to prosecute criminals. This seems to be, I don't know, kind of the opposite of the stance that she took as a prosecutor. I'm thinking specifically of her move against truancy, against parents. I mean, that seems like something that would affect children in poverty more than any other group, but we cannot expect such consistencies from one Kamala Harris. But moving on, when she got into law school, she did some interns. She was the president of the National Black Law Student Association, a lot of very standard college student type of stuff. So then she went to go take her bar exam. She failed the first time. She says that she didn't study enough. I'm joking. It is a very difficult test. I'm sure that she struggled. But nonetheless, she did eventually pass. And after this, she became deputy district attorney. She did this for about 4 years. There was little to no movement in her career during this time until Mr. Willie Brown enters the scene, folks. This is when stuff starts getting interesting. Now, purely of coincidence, the year that she met Willie Brown in 1994, she took a leave of absence from her position as deputy district attorney. Now, this rich part of Kamala's history is so often left out, but Brown was 60 when they started dating, and Kamala Harris was 29 or 30, and Brown was also married. Now, that is often disputed, but in Willie Brown's own autobiography, he said that the reason that he ended it with Kamala Harris is because his wife was becoming upset that the public rumors were getting more and more serious, because there was a lot of rumors of engagement, and this is the woman who's finally going to tame Willie Brown. And his wife did not like that, so she made him cut it off. These are his own words. So do with that what you will. Now, a large part of politics is to schmooze. It's not what you know, it's who you know and who you do. And Kamala learned this lesson very early, and Willie Brown introduced her to a lot of people. At this point in time, Willie Brown was the Speaker of the California State Assembly, which means that he was in charge of committee assignments, things of this nature, and Kamala also benefited from this, most certainly. He first appointed her to the Unemployed Insurance Appeals Board, which she did that for about 5 months before she left, and he appointed her to the Medical Assistance Commission. And between the two of these, she was easily making about $200,000 a year, adjusted for inflation in today's money. Now, you might be asking, why is a woman whose experience extends to 4 years as a deputy district attorney, some school internships, maybe a summer job here and there, what is she doing on the Medical Assistance Board? One that specifically states that members must have some experience in the medical industry. Questions we all have, I think. And the answer is quite obvious, but if I say it out loud, I will be labeled a sexist, probably a racist too, so I will just let the silence inform you. And if you need any context clues, I will give you this. I am totally sure that this beautiful 30-year-old woman was just simply attracted to and just simply fell in love with this 60-year-old man. And there were absolutely no other deals or benefits that she got from that relationship. She just really loved him. Now, during her time on the Medical Commissions Board, she missed 20% of the meetings, according to the Washington Examiner. And you might be thinking, well, I miss some work too. Things come up. It's understandable, yada, yada. But they only met twice a month. My God. You can't, that's every other week. You can't take 2 hours out of your week every other week. Kamala Harris. So then by 1995, the pair did break up. She then got hired by DA Terrence Hallinan. And then a couple of years later, she won in a race against him to become San Francisco DA. So she is starting to move her way up the ladder. And what's interesting here is she won this race by claiming that her former boss was too progressive and too loose on crime, which is just so damn rich. That's so rich. That is incredible, honestly. But then once in office, she maintained a lot of the same prosecutorial habits that he had. So now I do think it is worth noting, I don't think it's of great significance, but during this race, she was fined $34,000 for overspending. And then there was other unethical complaints lodged against her, one of which was that reportedly her campaign manager went undercover to get information about her opponent. So, on one hand, it's like standard politics, standard politician behavior. On the other hand, it's like standard politician behavior, and we're gonna vote for her? Okay. So some of the continued practices that Harris maintained once she got into office was things like she had condemned her former boss for going easy on the Iraq rioters, and then she herself released all of them. Make that make sense. Also, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? She also got some blowback from people like Dianne Feinstein for going easy on horrific murderers and not pursuing the death penalty. So she started off as deputy district attorney, took some time off of that, got some nice cushy seats from her boyfriend, and then she got back in the game. She was San Francisco district attorney, and now she has her eyes set on California attorney general. But in order to accomplish this goal, she needed two things to be true at once. She needed to both be tough on crime and a liberal, progressive prosecutor. So how she grappled with this was just simply by taking both sides of every argument possible. This looked like, according to Daily Wire, she wouldn't prosecute prostitution, but she also wouldn't criminalize it. She supported legalizing marijuana, but arrested distributors, according to Vox. She pushed for programs that helped people find jobs instead of putting them in prison, but also fought to keep people in prison even though they were proven innocent. She refused to pursue the death penalty against a man who killed a police officer, but also defended California's death penalty system in court. She implemented training programs to address police officers' racial biases, but also resisted calls to get her office to investigate certain police shootings. She would also do things such as change the 3 strikes law, which states that after a third felony, you go to jail for 25 years, no ifs, ands, or buts about this. And she changed it to say that unless that third felony was violent, you are not going to go to jail. So essentially, she got rid of it. So you can go rob the same bodega 200 times and just have at that, as long as you're not violent. Then in the same breath, as we mentioned earlier, she also advocated for prosecuting parents of truant children. I mean, be for real. This is so, oh my Lord. I have whiplash. Random and ill thought out policy it's in the bones of Kamala Harris. I mean, it's who she is. I don't think that she's ever given anything serious thought in her life. Now, so she is said to have a 90% conviction rate, but the deal with that is that she pled out over half of her cases, meaning they never went to court. So of course, if you're taking less than half of your cases actually to court, yeah, you're going to have a higher chance of getting conviction rates on those because you're probably pleading out the ones that you think you're going to lose. I'm just thinking out loud here. At this point, this woman, she's literally schemed her way through life. She has schemed her way to being a heartbeat away from the presidency. It is, in that way, maybe she is overqualified, because in that way, she is a true politician. So by now, you get the picture that is being painted. We have a woman who has said what she has needed to, done what and who she has needed to get to where she has needed to. This fully brings us to her 2010 California AG race. She narrowly won this race. I believe it was by less than 1%, and almost immediately started getting the highest endorsements from people like Obama, which made it pretty clear that she already, yet again, had her eyes set even higher than where she was. As Kamala Harris's career progresses, the controversies just build. And I mean, I guess that's standard for any politician, but that's why we're going to talk about it, so that you can make an informed vote. So one of her most controversial moments as AG was in 2014. At this time, California prisons found themselves so overpopulated to the point, as put by the courts, that it was considered cruel and unusual punishment. So because of this, the courts put out an order that they had to release nonviolent offenders who only had 2 felonies, which, I mean, that's crazy, but it was the court order, and we have a progressive, free, loving prosecutor AG on our hands, so of course she's going to love the idea of letting these criminals go. But you would be mistaken. You would be mistaken. The lawyers under Harris's command in her office stated that this would deplete the prison's labor system at a time when they really needed it. Now, Harris came out and said that she was unaware of these statements. She was unaware that the lawyers working for her were saying such things. And that, could be true. But what it does mean one of two things. It means either one, she is so incompetent that she doesn't know what the lawyers that work for her are saying or what is on the papers that they're filing, or two, she's lying. There is not a third option in this case. She also had a habit of keeping innocent people in prison, which is just so delightful. Daniel Larson, who was found innocent by the Innocence Project, but her office argued that he filed this appeal too late to be released. The courts disagreed, and he was released. We also have the case that was brought up by Tulsi Gabbard in their debate in 2020 or 2019, in which Harris's office withheld DNA evidence, or the ability to go get DNA evidence that would potentially prove this man to be innocent, and he was on death row. So I think that's two birds with one stone, isn't it? Isn't she supposed to be anti-death penalty, and yet when there's DNA evidence that could get this man off of death penalty, she doesn't go after it? What are we doing here? All of these examples add up to one hell of a predicament. Harris has hailed herself to be a progressive prosecutor, but also top cop. So which is it? You simply cannot be both. These two things, you cannot be both of these things. And what we're seeing right now is this is the exact problem that is dividing her base in half as she is running for president here in 2024. She also found herself in some controversy with her lavish campaign spending habits. This came in the form of booking the nicest hotels, the best airfare, all of this sort of thing. And all the while, her aides and people helping on her campaign did not get such luxury. And this was something that was discussed. I guess that $34,000 fine really didn't get it through to her. Now, jokes aside, this isn't something that's necessarily illegal. It's just a bad look. It's you're literally using money that has been donated to you to win an election to stay in a hotel room that costs $800 or $900 a night. That's not a good look. And then you sit here and claim to be one of the people, be out on the streets. I'm one of you. Bitch, what? Now, I feel like it would be one thing if she was like independently wealthy, you know? But she's literally using the money that you give to her to win her election to stay in a nice hotel and take a bubble bath. Let that one sink in. All right, so this flashes us forward to 2016. The office in her eyesight was U.S. Senate. She did get elected to Senate, and she used this office, as all offices before, to continue her ploy for celebrity, fame, fortune, and power. This came in the form of using such things as Brett Kavanaugh. She was one of the people who went after him. Anything to get her name in the headline, essentially. She never had any evidence or factual basis for any of the things that she was saying. But if it would get her name in a headline and get people talking about her, that was good enough for Kamala Harris. She announced for her presidency come 2019. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the true beginning of the downfall of Kamala Harris. Let's just be honest here. I think here's a good time to actually pause. And if you've made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you. Second of all, comment down below if you actually like Kamala Harris. Let me rephrase that. Comment down below if you liked her 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, before the media apparatus decided that you were supposed to like her and started feeding you things to try and make you like her. Let me know if you liked her independently of all of the media propaganda that we are seeing today, because I would like to know the type of people. So the problem that Kamala Harris has is that the more the American people see of her, the less the American people like her. And I think that the reason that her polls are up right now is because Democrats are just relieved that Joe Biden's out. They are just relieved that Joe Biden is not the one that is running anymore, and they have an alive candidate. But I think that the more she gets out on the campaign trail, those polls are going to go back down, because going into being nominated, she had the lowest approval rating of any vice president ever. She was at 28%. That is lower than Dick Cheney during the Iraq War. So shortly after announcing her candidacy, Jussie Smollett, rocked the world. Now, if you are unfamiliar with this case, with this situation, where you been? This was a situation that happened back in January of 2019. Jussi Smollett claimed that he was out at 2 or 3 in the morning in the middle of January to get a freaking Subway sandwich, of all things. And he was attacked by some guys who screamed, "This is MAGA country." And it was just like a really bad, severe hate crime, so bad, in which Kamala Harris immediately took to Twitter to say that this was a modern day lynching, all of this other stuff, yada, yada, yada. Flash forward, Jussi Smollett went to jail for wasting police resources because the whole thing was a hoax. He actually paid these guys to do this. So that's unfortunate. So throughout this candidacy, short-lived as it was, we see her once again holding both sides of every single argument. On the topic of healthcare, she claimed that she wanted to get rid of private insurance. That got a lot of backlash, so she walked it back in a very wishy-washy way. Her prosecutorial record came back yet again to haunt her, as it should. There was a lot of unanswered questions with her stance on the death penalty, seeing as she refused to go for it for someone like Isaac Espinosa. But then, as discussed earlier, when there was evidence available to get someone off of death row, she did not go for it. So which is it? And I am going to go ahead and play the clip of Tulsi Gabbard bringing this up, because she brings up a couple other points as well. This is a good time for this clip to resurface, because it took her down the first time. So
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response,
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
all right, so this paired with seeing her more often, hearing her more often, the American people in the Democratic Party failed on this bitch. They ran for the hills. Harris ended up not receiving a single delegate in the 2020 primaries. And if you are curious about how the primary process works with all of the delegates and everything, let me know in the comments. I could do a video about that if that is something that you guys are interested in, because it is kind of wild. And while Kamala didn't receive any, Tulsi for her part did receive 2. So the debate did something. So that paired with her habit of lavish campaign money spending, her campaign simply went broke. And she did the whole, I'm not a billionaire and I can't afford to do this on my own and we just simply can't do it anymore. And I don't know what accent that was or why that was what I chose for her, but that was the end of her presidential dreams, for the time being at least, because all the while apparently they just had her waiting in the shadows to become vice president. But before that could happen, she did have to go to bat with Joe Biden, which speaking of holding every side of every issue, she was this man's biggest hater and biggest lover. And I can already hear it. JD Vance was a never Trumper, blah, 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 blah. We're talking years. There is almost 10 years between 2016 and 2024. This is a matter of months. This is months, you guys, between her calling Joe Biden a racist and then becoming his vice president. So this looked like, I'm sure you've all seen the clip of her doing her debate with Joe Biden. I'll input it here.
President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a
oppose
failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the
federal
Voting
government
Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA.
This essentially looked like that clip from the debate where she essentially called him a racist when 7 women came out claiming that they were inappropriately touched by good old Uncle Joe. She came out saying she believed them. When Tara Reid came out saying that Joe was, again, inappropriate with her, all of these allegations, she staunchly came out in support, saying that she believed these women. And then just a few short months later, she happily and excitedly accepted to be the vice presidential ticket to a racist and a rapist. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that any of these allegations from these women are true. I don't know. I don't know if anything was actually legitimately brought up. But what I am saying is that Kamala Harris herself said that she believed them. And it's around this time that she tweeted out calling for donations for the Minnesota Freedom Fund to get BLM rioters bailed out of jail, very reminiscent of her letting Iraq rioters off of the hook as well. But her most important, arguably her sole duty that she was tasked with, was the border. And this is something that has just been mind-boggling, because as soon as she was announced as the potential candidate, the favorite candidate, all of a sudden she was never in charge of the border. Are you shitting me? If she's not in charge of the border, then why is she being asked about the border?
To visit the border.
At some point, we've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Do not let them gaslight you like this. Kamala Harris was tasked with the border, finding out the root causes, all of this. Why did she give a speech saying, "Don't come"? Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them tell you to not believe your lying eyes. We know what we know. They cannot memory hold this. She had one job and she failed. What makes you think that she will be able to handle a whole presidency? So there's that. And there's just all of the countless weird tics, weird things that she has. I will be putting out a video a couple of days after this one, kind of a compilation of all of her greatest hits, all of the ramblings and the cacklings and general unnervedness that comes off of this woman. So make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Turn on the notification bell so that you can be alerted when that video drops, because it's going to be a fun one. But I think that the overarching theme we have here is that this woman has no effing clue what is going on. She is the definition of failing to the top, of faking it till you make it. Because lest we forget, just 30 days ago, she was sitting and saying that Joe Biden is totally with it, that there is nothing that we have to worry about. The aides are struggling to keep up with him. She lied. She lies. She is a fraud. And her version of America is one of destruction for the people and prosperity for her and the DC establishment. Always keep in mind that when they say that Donald Trump is a threat to the democracy, what that really means is he's a threat to their establishment. He is a threat to their status quo. He is a threat to all of their corruption, all of the deep state. He is a threat to that. And Kamala Harris is a wildly unpopular person. Do not let them convince you otherwise. Do not let the media fool you. This woman is unbearably unlikable. She's been campaigning for 2 weeks now. She did her rally in Atlanta. And I find this just to be so ironic because within a day of each other, she did her rally in Atlanta and Trump did an interview with some, I think it was in Chicago. I can't remember the name of the organization right now, but everyone was upset with Trump because he was giving this black interviewer a hard time because she came out of the gate very aggressive. And so Trump met her back with that same aggression. That's Trump, though. That's what he does. It does not matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, black, Asian, Latino. It does not matter. White, who cares? He doesn't care. He's just going to match your energy. And if you're going to be a dick, he's going to be a dick back. Meanwhile, you have Kamala Harris going to a rally in Atlanta, changing the way that she speaks to try and speak more hood, if you will, bringing out Meg the Stallion to twerk and talk about being ratchet. And that doesn't strike anyone as a little racist. You don't feel a little pandered to? Yeah, Trump's the big bad orange man, for sure. It's insane to me. But that is all that I have for you guys today. What can I say? This woman is fraudulent. She has no idea what the hell is going on, and she has no business being in the position that she is. But that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't enjoy the episode, I hope you at least gleaned something out of it. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel because, like I said, I'm going to be putting out another video in a couple of days, kind of going through her greatest hits. So make sure you join me for that, and I will talk to you guys next Monday. Bye.